I guess I should start this out with saying today we're welcomed by two very special guests. The first being my co-interviewer Soren,
Hello there.
who does not have a camera, so you will not be seeing him, and our other guest, the much more impressive one here today, Dylan. I just watched the audio cut out on your end. Discord can be fun. So we're here primarily because Dylan recently made a movie, and we wanted to interview him here today.
To be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we should go ahead and why don't you tell us about your movie a little bit?
Well, it's titled "The Hunt for August Red." Basically the premise of the film is August Red finds $25,000 in a laundromat, and it becomes the worst mistake of his life. Hour and 47 minutes, and we just done a sort of private premiere at the Movie Tavern in Nicholasville, Kentucky. Which, Jacob and what should I call you on here?
Soren is fine.
Okay, and Jacob and Soren had a chance to watch, and yeah, and thank you guys for coming to the premiere too. It meant a lot to us.
Yeah, we were definitely glad to go see it. I guess the first question I would like to know is this is your first movie in theaters, correct? Yeah. So what were the emotions you went through when the premiere happened?
And well, you guys sat in through the whenever it first started. So if I can just put things into context, the day before, me and my wife, we were at Movie Tavern. It was close to, I think it was a little bit after midnight, because we were trying to get the DCP file to work, and it wasn't. So we had to switch over to the MP4 file, and so they were playing it through a laptop to their screen. And I had no idea what technical difficulties were going to come from that. We kind of just gave it to them, and it was in their hands. But when the premiere started, and I saw that little laptop screen with the little timeline and stuff, I'm not gonna lie, my heart dropped. I ran out of the theater. I told them, I was like, "Hey, look, you can see the freaking laptop screen on here. You got to fix this." So when you guys were watching it, I'm pretty sure you noticed they like zoomed in on it and
Yeah.
fixed it. Yeah, that was horrible. Overall, though, I mean, it was an unbelievable experience. The hearing everybody's reactions, and I was sitting by the little ramp next to the theater, because I was making sure that everything played right, everything looked well, because I had to constantly go back and forth, tell them to adjust the audio, adjust the brightness. You might have noticed quality changes throughout, but it was unreal. I mean, I just hearing everybody's reactions and just seeing it on the big screen after spending countless hours on it. I don't know if you guys have any questions that pertain to how long we were in the editing room or not, but we spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I think Soren had a question about that.
So how long exactly did it take you all to produce the film, between the actual filming, the editing, the sound mixing, and everything?
About a year, a little over a year. The pre-production was around a month or so. That was pre-production, because I sort of had an idea of who I was going to cast, and we did do initial casting, of course, but I had an idea of sort of the main cast, who I was going to use. So the pre-production wasn't that crazy. You'd be surprised how many people are actually really okay with you using their locations and stuff, as long as you got like the right paperwork and everything. So we didn't really have any hiccups with that. It was just whenever we were on set, I would say filming took about 20 days, give or take. Probably add a couple more days just for establishing shots and B-roll and all that. And then editing took probably about 7 months and about 1,200 hours altogether for editing.
Now, what would you say were the greater challenges during the production of the film?
Well, the budget is the main thing, and the reason why I can include the budget in almost every problem that we had is when you do go to a location, people will let you film there. They'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool, sweet, we're filming a movie here." But then once you're on their property for longer than like 4 hours, they're like, "Oh crap, these guys are filming a movie. They've been here for like 4 hours," and then you're there for like another 2 hours, and then eventually they're like, "Hey, you got to go." So just getting the right amount of coverage. The scene, the basement scene, which I won't spoil anything, but the basement scene, with Trevor and the gun and all that. So when we went there, the person that owned that house, he was very down with everything. He let us move stuff around. Him and his wife were on vacation. They left and they were like, "Okay, you know what? You guys just move whatever you need around. You guys can shoot whatever you want and have fun with it." So we did that. Yeah, well, that's how it started. And then we got a text message and he said, "Hey, I'm on my way home. I'm in like a bad mood or something. I want you guys out of my house." So,
oh no!
Yeah. So it's funny because when you guys see August, Michael, and Jaden sitting on the futon, that one shot, I actually only got one take of that. We ended up in editing. We cropped it out to where we had Michael and August together, so it looked like a two-shot. But I only had one take, and that one take we did in 3 minutes because he was on his way home. So I basically read their lines to them, and then they would repeat them back to me if they forgot them. And I was like, "Okay, now look, I'm gonna need you to look scared. I'm gonna need you to look stressed. I'm gonna need you to look excited. All this stuff." So they were sitting there. So that one take that we had, none of it was in chronological order. I just took what I could get, and then we dipped. So
to follow up that question, so we've now heard the biggest problems you've had. What scenes, if there were any, do you think were just gonna not work and just did?
Oh, well, that same scene where in the basement, you guys will notice at the very end of that, before it cuts to 2 weeks later, there was a special effect that we did. And we had no choice but to do that special effect because we were going to do it to where you sprayed and then that was it. We were just going to cut to black. But when we looked in the footage, that 3-minute beautiful take that we got, you could see the hands and the spray bottles in the shot. So we had to hire somebody to do special effects for that. And I had no idea how we were going to do it because we were sitting there in the editing room and I was like, "This is a disaster. Like, we've got the scene edited, but like, what do we do with this? Like, we can't finish it." And then finally we were like, "Well, you know what? What if we hire a special effects person and we actually show what happened?" Because we were going to, kind of hide it, for budgetary purposes. And no, we just hired somebody and did it, and it worked. And I was like, "Wow, $200 well spent." So
I guess the next question would be, what originally inspired the movie?
Well, a few films that inspired the film itself. I'm like Big Lebowski. If you're talking about tone and atmosphere, Big Lebowski, No Country for Old Men, Boogie Nights, just in terms of the colors and kind of how crazy everything is with the dialogue and stuff. Because Boogie Nights has very I don't want to say grody dialogue, but they do tend to say the F word like every 5 minutes, and I feel like that's how it is kind of with The Hunt for August Red. But I wanted to just pull from those sort of flashy films, those colorful films, films that our generation really look up to and have fun with.
Yeah. Okay.
What of those works and possibly their directors do you think would inspired you the most to make this film?
I would probably have to say the Coen brothers with No Country for Old Men. I would probably say the Coen brothers. I'm a big fan of their style. I really like, just kind of the way that they do things on set and the stories that they do. When you watch one of their films, you can definitely tell it's made by the Coen brothers, but they don't really do the same film twice, I guess, if that makes sense. But also another director that just inspires me a lot is, Stanley Kubrick. He's, him going out and just, he's a genre filmmaker. He tackles so many different things, and that's kind of what I did with The Hunt for August Red. I kind of just combined a bunch of genres together, So probably those two directors, or three, because the Coen brothers are two people.
So, I got about 2 more questions written down. We touched on it a little bit with this is your first theatrical film, but I've known you a little bit over the course of the last couple of years. You've worked on other projects, so you want to tell us a little bit about some of those, maybe where we can find them, and roughly how long would you say you've been in the film industry?
Well, I guess in the film industry, it all started about 3 years ago. I've always wanted to make movies. I even, I had written 2 books beforehand that were kind of written like screenplays. So the passion's just always been there for film. And I would say about 3 years ago, because me and the lead actor, Gavin, who's, he's been a big help. He actually was the person that edited the film. It was me and him in the editing room for, all that time. We had filmed a film called Neon Snuff, a short film, and it got into the Scarefest Film Festival. And then after that, we did it was about a 50-minute long short film called The Sunset Beat, which nobody will ever watch. We did that. We actually did have a private premiere for that at the Movie Tavern. It was mainly just to sort of get funding for the Hunt for August Red. We were like, okay, well, our friends and family, they want to help us out. They really want to see this film. So let's do something special. Let's put it on the big screen. And so, yeah, whoever saw that, they've seen it. I'm never releasing it. It was definitely a learning experience. But if you want to watch Neon Snuff, it's on my YouTube channel, Dylan Anglin. You can find it on there. But yeah, I would say 3 years I've been in the industry, just trying to make it and, work on bigger stuff.
Soren, you got another question?
Yeah, I did ask you this once before when we had first met up in the theater, but I feel like now would be a pretty good time to go ahead and just ask it again. How exactly did you get into this business?
I remember you asking that too. I was very scatterbrained whenever I was trying to answer it, because I was like, I had a bunch of stuff on my mind, but I think I really just threw myself in there. I just kind of, it wasn't as simple as me waking up one morning and was like, hey, I want to do this. I had to get people together and, like-minded people that wanted to do the same thing. But, I kind of just threw myself in there. I put stuff out on Facebook. I was like, hey, I want to make a movie, because nobody really found me or anything. I kind of just started it up myself.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how I got into it. It was kind of just, me putting myself out there and, just letting people know it's what I wanted to do. And if you do that, you'd be really surprised all the people that just want to, just help out, and I wasn't even expecting that, when I first did it, because I was like, all right, well, I'm going to see if I can find people that want to work with me. And then, everybody did. And that's kind of how that played out. So yeah, I kind of just went in head first.
Now, if you had any recommendations for anybody, and I do mean anybody, that wanted to get into this sort of thing, what sort of advice do you think that you could give to them?
Well, I guess don't focus on so much on what everybody else is doing, because sometimes it can be really disheartening at times. Especially I'm guilty of this too, or at least I was, where I would go online and I would be like, well, how do you make it in the film industry, or how do you become a part of it? And if you do that, you'll basically get answers like it's impossible. And it's not impossible. So I would probably, just keep your head up, make sure you're constantly working, even if it's just as simple as writing a screenplay, even if, you don't have, any producers, investors, even if you don't really know anybody that's in the business at all, or anybody that wants to do it. If write a screenplay, because once you get that screenplay finished, the whole point of that is to get it filmed. So, just keep your head up with it. Don't really listen to any of the negative stuff, and try to network as much as you can. Try to make sure you find those people, because, you might want to direct something, but then you might end up finding somebody that's like, hey, I need an assistant on set. And you never know. I've met so many people that I never really thought they would even reach back out to me, like Anthony. He was recently in a film called Connected that was in the Los Angeles Film Festival, and it won. He also had a presence at the Cannes Film Festival with the film Connected. So him are working together just like that. And that was because I just kept networking and reaching out to people. So reach out to people as much as you can. If you want to make movies and you really want to make it happen, everybody that you can, and keep keep making those connections and networking. That's the most important thing.
Now, were there times that you really, really thought that perhaps maybe this wasn't really going to go anywhere? That perhaps maybe you felt like that just this dream just wasn't really going to happen? And when it did, what was the thing that kept you going the most? What kept you focused on doing what you wanted to do and getting it to the end?
I mean, yeah, there are times, especially when you're on set and you're having a bad day and nothing's going right, and then you'll go and look at the footage and you're like, oh crap, this doesn't look good. I need to shoot it again, and then you shoot it again and you're like, oh well, if I had to shoot this again, did I have something in the first place? And it was mainly like that while we were filming, but it wasn't all the time. I would sort of have my days where I would just be on set and kind of just be discouraged a little bit. But then when we got in the editing room and we started putting it together, I was like, okay, I like this. I mean, I'm not going to beat myself up too much. This is my first feature film, but I'm happy with what I got. And until you actually start to see it and be put together, because before you get in the editing room and you assemble it, all you're really looking at is just ungraded, hissy audio footage. That's all you're really looking at until you get all that stuff cleaned out, and you'll look at it and you're like, oh crap, this looks horrible. But then it's like taking an iron and just ironing out wrinkled clothes. You just, as the weeks go by, you start looking at it more and you start rewatching the scenes, and you're like, okay, well this actually this works. This works. This is a movie. I feel like I'm actually watching a movie now. I'm seeing it as an audience member, which of course, when you make a film, you're never going to completely see it as an audience member. But we got up to the rough cut of the film was 2 hours and 2 minutes long. We had watched the rough cut of the film, and it was without music. It was without audio cleanup. It was without color grade. It was without all that good stuff. And me and Gavin watched it, and when it was over, we looked at each other and we were like, wow, we did this. We did this without really any help. We did it, for $3,000, and we were like, we want people to see it. And kind of just at that moment after the rough cut, we just knew that it was going to go up from there, because we were going to trim it down, get it to a certain, time that it needed to be. And so it was that moment right there. But of course, I really can't see myself doing anything else as well. And if it wasn't for the people around me that's just really supportive, like my parents, my in-laws, my wife. My wife's a really big trooper, and my friends and stuff. And I mean, even you guys just showing up to the premiere. I've been talking to Jacob about this for the last year. And
yeah, you offered several times to let me come down and help out with the movie, even be in it, which unfortunately I could not do, scheduling and all.
Well, just know that offer still stands. It stands for both of you guys. When I'm on another set again, I would love to have you guys, come and help out. Even if you don't want to help out, even if you just want to watch and just, get drunk on set and just cheer us on. I'm down with that.
Oh, absolutely. If you need someone to fill a bit role to do something incredibly stupid, you can call me up. I will do just about whatever. It does not matter.
Absolutely. I'm down with that.
Okay. You're actually in the movie, which, if I remember correctly, around the time you filmed that scene, you weren't supposed to be the guy that was running out of the house. Do you want to get into why you have a cameo?
Yeah, so I actually have 3 cameos in the film, and all 3 of those cameos were not supposed to be me. So that's another one of those, you get on set and things don't that they're supposed to. So the cat eye man, where the eyes are coming up, and that was me.
Okay.
Yeah, that was me. There we have some pretty cool behind the scenes photos of that. I'll see if you guys want to know what that. There is a full face to that character, by the way. I will send you guys pictures of it because there is something else on my bottom that I didn't show because I just thought it would be a lot more creepier if I showed the eyes. but that was supposed to be somebody we casted, and we ran out of time. So we ended up just filming that real quick, and I was like, you know what, screw it. And I put on the contacts, put on the wig, and did it myself. And then the scene where Joseph is on the phone talking to somebody, and you hear him talking about August Red and how they found him, that was me as well. That was on the phone. And then the scene you guys are talking about where I'm busting out of the door drunk and like grabbing the railing and stuff. So funny thing, we actually had somebody that day on set that was supposed to take over that role. You can see him in the montage section of the film where he comes up and he talks to Rachel's character, and that was originally going to be the guy that was going to do that. Well, then fast forward a couple of hours on set, and I'm like, okay, where's the drunk guy at? They're like, oh, no. And I was like, crap, he left. So they're like, well, what are we going to do? So I took the shirt off, and I grabbed a red Solo cup, and they were like, hey, do you actually want a drink? I'm like, no, I still got to direct the movie, but I got this. I got this. I can act it. So, yeah, I just ended up taking the role of the drunk guy, and that's my little 5 seconds of fame in the film.
Yeah.
Now, if you'll excuse me here, I actually do have to step away for just a moment. I'll leave you with in the capable hands of Jacob.
Yeah. So you brought up a little bit with that little horror scene, your other cameo. I just have to ask, because all of us were wondering, what is up with that scene? Because it comes out of nowhere and it's never brought up again.
So for the second showing that we had, the 7:30 showing, we actually had people that wanted me to elaborate more on that. Of course, I can see why. So essentially, the reason why that scene happens is I am just doing it to mess with you. I am doing it. I'm having fun, but it's just it has a deeper meaning because Zane is just sitting there, and he's like, "Hey, tried to get a hold of my sister, called twice, but she didn't pick up," and then you get to see that happen. Well, as morbid as this may sound. I could be sitting down with somebody one day. I hate using my wife as this example, but it's like, okay, what you doing? I'm just trying to get a hold of my wife. Called twice, but she didn't pick up. And I mean, the world's a big place. Something like that could be happening. Yeah. I kind of just put that in there to show that, like, hey, something like that is probably happening around you. And, me and you right now, we have our own stories. We have our own narrative that we're going through in life. But things like that are actually happening around us. We just don't know it. And I kind of just wanted to throw that in there just to mess with people. I wasn't sure if it worked. I wasn't sure if it wasn't going to, or, so when we were going to cut it out anyway, or I was going to cut it out of the final cut because I was like, I don't know, maybe this is just too weird. So I ended up, showing people, just sort of getting their reactions, and everybody that the reactions of everybody in the theater.
Yeah.
Well, reaction I was getting out of everybody else. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm leaving it in there. I don't care. So, and I can understand why some people would be a little bit upset that I didn't talk about that a little bit more, because how do you show something like that, like 30 minutes in, the remaining hour, you just don't even mention it anymore. But at the same time, it has a lot of unanswered questions. So, yeah,
there were several things that happened but didn't feel like they had much of a resolution. Was that something that were there a lot in those 20 minutes that got cut out that a lot of scenes kind of lost their resolution, or was it all just kind of stuff that was not needed at all?
It was stuff that was probably not needed. There was was there any scenes in particular that you wanted to ask? You don't have to talk about it too much, but just any scenes in particular that you wanted me to sort of tell you guys if I cut any stuff out of it?
There is one that everyone wanted to know about on the ride home. At the very end of the movie, when they're all being yelled at by the main antagonist, not the one that we follow throughout most of the movie with Zane. You keep doing this thing where you cut to X minutes later. Was that always intended, or did you cut stuff out of that monologue?
No, so I actually have a reason for that. That was actually, I had no choice but to do that because so the guy that was on set, the original screenplay that I wrote, he is sitting on a chair eating an apple, looking at all of them, talking and doing his monologue. And it turned out that way. Mikey, the guy that plays Joseph, he's a very interesting character. He kind of just does his own thing when he gets on set. So he kind of just started yelling at everybody and started saying things. And when we got in the editing room, at that point where he started laughing, I was like, okay, well, there's some dialogue that he forgot to say. And then he just like would say it, and then he would pick up the weed eater. And then he would like start speaking in tongues and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, this is gold. I want to use it, but how do I keep it in this film without doing like these awkward jump cuts? And I started thinking, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just comedic element to it. 3 minutes later, 6 minutes later, 7 minutes later. So that was kind of, if I wanted to keep those in there, I had no choice but to do that. So, yeah, I didn't, but I didn't cut much stuff out. I got to keep, a majority of it. So,
yeah, we were just curious if that was the intended scene or if time constraints caused you to cut it down. Which
it wasn't ideal. It wasn't exactly how I envisioned it when I walked into set that day, but I'm glad I got it all recorded. And also too, we do have a deleted scene. Which if I can find it, I think it's on my old computer. I have a deleted scene with Michael and Jaden walking to their car outside of the bowling alley, which I'll send to you guys if I can find it. And that was another one that we took out. It was like 3 minutes long, and that one kind of stung a little bit because it did add to their relationship a little bit. It was I felt like it was one of the more funny parts of the film with their characters. But it just didn't really do much to move the story forward, so I ended up having to cut it out. So, yeah, other 17 minutes that we had to cut out, it was mainly just the film could do without it. The film could do without it.
Okay.
Now, to follow up with the idea on unexpectedness, were there any reactions from the audience that you had during the premiere that you weren't really expecting or perhaps maybe surprised you?
Yes, absolutely. So, showing that we did, was it's funny because I didn't know exactly who was going to react to what. Like I kind of had an idea of what parts they would react at, but for the first showing, when everybody sat down and Mikey was yelling at Zane in the van, the first when we first meet them and they're driving down the road and he's like banging on the dash and stuff. So when I done, just little test screenings for that, because and when people would come to the house, I would show them that scene and stuff, and I would get a lot of laughs out of that. And nobody really, laughed, and I kind of peeked my head in a little bit, and I just seen people that were kind of just staring. Hey, well, maybe they're not sick and morbid like me and thinks that's funny. Maybe they're just like really concerned for Zane because he's being yelled at, and there's somebody next to him trying to like break his van apart. So I was like, okay, well, all right, let's see if we get any more reactions. And then whenever August and Michael were sitting at the couch, I don't know if it's where I've just seen that play out so many times. That was actually one of the scenes that I'd gotten so many takes from. So I don't know. I never really thought any of that was too funny, but then I heard people chuckle, in both showings. The second showing, a lot of people laughed during that. And then after that, it was just almost every dialogue scene that would come on, I would hear people chuckle and laugh, and that's just kind of stuff that I can't do, because I'm not an audience member. And I was just sitting there, and I was like, okay, switch like this, they enjoy the dialogue. This is good, because I had no idea what people were going to expect. And then the scene with Trevor, where he's yelling at his girlfriend and she's yelling back. The first showing, I got good reactions out of that, but the second showing, everybody went berserk. I mean, everybody was like, it was almost like people like turning the volume knob up. Everybody just kept laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And then when that one scene happened, it was almost like a bass drop, and everybody was like, "Oh!" Sitting there, and I was like, "I only paid $200 for that effect, and I'm glad you guys liked it and it looked real." So.
I will say, The Trevor scene is probably the best one in the movie for humor. I know I didn't laugh very much during the movie myself, but it was very funny.
Yeah, Gus is he's a very interesting actor. He loves to play those types of characters. I mean, I'm sure he wants to play other stuff as well, but he was very ecstatic whenever he got to play Trevor, because I originally wanted him to play a bigger role in the film, but he actually came from Los Angeles to film. And he was only here for a month, and then ended up moving down here. So there's that. But yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a lot quieter than Trevor, which, I mean, I honestly don't. Personally speaking, I don't think I know anybody like Trevor in real life. But yeah, he owned that character. He came on set and he surprised everybody. I think he might have scared a few people too, because we had guns on set and he's putting them in his mouth, and it's all fun.
Yeah.
Until somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
The gun safety nut in me had my heart racing when he was like, just having that in his mouth. I'm like, okay, fam, you need to kind of chill.
Yeah.
I know.
I think
he's telling them to chill out, and he's the one that's telling them to chill out.
Oh, it was so good. I love that scene.
I think the entire theater knew what was going to happen, but everyone was on edge for when it would.
Well, like I said, I had no idea that I was actually going to show, what happened, because in the screenplay, I write everything off screen, and I guess, I don't know. Well, did you guys expect me to show it, or did you guys expect me to not show it?
Oh, I expected it to be shown, but most of the movies I've seen that pull something like that out show it.
I'm glad people were happy with how that scene ended, because like I said, that was probably the most stressful. That's probably the most stressful scene in the movie towards the end of that, because everything that could go wrong with that scene did go wrong. So I'm glad that it's your all's favorite scene. I'm glad it worked. So
now when those reactions that took you a bit more by surprise, came around and happened, do you think it might actually make you do things a little bit differently in any future project?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I'll probably be a little bit more. I guess I'll be a little bit more open with my dialogue from now on, because when I wrote the film and stuff, I knew exactly who was going to see it. I knew the audience that was going to watch it, and it's not me giving the audience, I'm not giving them credit or anything. It's just I'm not really sure exactly what the audience likes, because and I'm not trying to put my film on a pedestal by any means, but when I go to the theater and I watch a movie with a lot of people, a lot of the times when I hear people laughing or if they think something's funny, or I see really strong reactions, it usually is from something like a Marvel movie, or something like Star Wars or something like that, So when it comes to, films that are more up my alley, like art house style films, or an intense drama, or, just sort of a very mellow comedy, something like that, usually when I'm in the theater, I don't really hear anybody. It's just from the time the movie starts to the time the movie ends, people are just sitting there watching it. So all of those little moments where people chuckled and I got a reaction just from a line of dialogue or a response from a character, I'm probably going to take advantage of that a lot more, with my writing, and probably do that more often. If I think something's funny, or if I think something's going to hit with somebody, instead of just, overthinking it for 5 minutes while I look at the page, and then going with something different, I'm probably going to go with my gut instinct and be like, okay, well, this is going to connect with some people. This is going to connect. It might not connect with everybody, but it's going to connect to some. And, just hearing the people chuckle and laugh, that means a lot to me. So I would rather just, have a few honest reactions than a few reactions that are not, if that makes sense.
Right.
Well, I guess we should be about ready to wrap up the non-spoiler stuff. We can stick around after the recording to really get into some of the nitty-gritty, but the last thing I kind of want to ask you is what's next?
So I have finished a screenplay, and I had a table read for it after the premiere, um, and I got some really good feedback from it. This is one that I've been working on for a while. The Hunt for August Red, I wrote that in 3 weeks. This one I've been working on for the last year or so. I was actually able to do multiple drafts of this one. The Hunt for August Red was just one draft, and we filmed it. But this is one that I've been able to put a lot of time and energy into. We did a table read for it. It is it's a thriller horror with comedic elements. But I'm also writing a comedy right now, and I'm also working on another screenplay, and it's kind of dystopian. So I don't know exactly which one of those I'm going to be filming next. I have a very interesting meeting in November with somebody in LA, and right now it's just meeting with investors and stuff, and just talking with them and sort of figuring out what type of budget that I can get. But the one that I just written, I don't want to say the title or anything yet, but I'll tell you guys after this, of course. But I'm hoping that's going to be the next one, and I'm going to be able to sort of, with what you were saying with the cat-eyed man and stuff, just that scene. I'm going to be able to sort of touch a little bit more on horror. I'm going to be able to sort of, direct more horror, and just sort of just dip my hands in other genres and try them out. So that's kind of the plan for moving forward.
Now, a horror genre I am especially excited to see because I've always been a really big fan of things such as slasher films and psychological horror films. I've never had actually seen any particular film that wasn't done by a big company or by a big studio before, so I'm actually quite excited to see that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you guys more about it a little bit later.
So, unless if you have another question that you can remember, Soren?
You know what? Let's just throw this in there for fun. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick.
Okay.
Well, where can everyone find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube, Dylan Anglin. You can find me on Instagram, Dylan Anglin _. Those are really the only platforms that I use. I'm very active on Instagram a lot. So if you guys want to follow me on there and, just to keep up with the film and where it's going to be, showing at or premiering, we actually just submitted it to Sundance. So we're going to figure that the notification date is December 2nd. So hopefully we have some news on that. We just wanted to do it just see it in and, just kind of shoot for the stars with it. But if you guys just want to know more, film stuff or just, what I'm doing with my films, Instagram is definitely the best place.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you both for joining me here today. This was a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to see what happens, what you come up with next.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.